Colonel, I would want to know what inspired you to get into the Indian Army.
My dad was already in the army. He had fought the Second World War. So when I saw him in his uniform, that was my inspiration. The genesis of the birth of Bangladesh lies in the birth of Pakistan as a nation. The refugees who came to India, they were not Hindus alone. They were Muslims also. 95% of them were Muslims. So he says, where do you think we are going? So I don't know, nonchalantly I just told him, I said, we're going to Dhaka. He said, what? There was a pin drop silence. Now let me be very frank that everybody who joins the armed forces, he has one dream, is to fight a war. The second thing as the commando is you never remove both your shoes. You always have one shoe on your foot, so that you have time to wear the other shoe or not. That's the first time I thought to myself, war, here I come.
War, here
I come. That was what it was. Because I was now clear that something was amiss.
Were your 6 guns strategically placed there because of the Kaspa railway station?
On 25th June, that was the day the fire landed in my gun area, the artillery shells.
That is the first time you are seeing
I
live fire.
actually came under live fire for the first time in my life. 18 rounds fell, and I'll be very honest, I was a little shaken up. There was an Air Force officer by the name of Group Captain Chandan Singh, and he told us, he said, gentlemen, I'd like to promise you that 72 hours after the war starts, there will be no Pakistan Air Force in the air. When the attack went, and because of the heavy firing, the Mukti Baini ran back. So Major Kitkule, who had unfortunately fractured his right hand, he came out. He says, koi Maika Lal hai, so mere saath chalega, let's go on this. And the best part was that the Mukti Baini is shouting Joy Bangla, the Sikhs were shouting Bole So Nihal, and Kitkule Sahab was shouting Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj ki jai, and they went and captured the place.
We feel that a war zone is a heartless place, but probably that's where the most heart and most morals are found. And this one example that you gave us, where you fought a personal war to bring a sister back, because a small girl asked you, is it Raksha Bandhan?
When I look back today, I don't know why I did it, but just something inside, and I went in.
Welcome, Colonel Pradeep Saxena, to Conversations in Bangalore. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. We've met a couple of times. I've heard your story of your experience in the Indian military vis-a-vis the army. And I thought that this has to be brought so that it can be shared to people who can actually understand what a soldier goes through. It's a pleasure having you here, sir. And one other thing, like always on this conversation, what was your first experience with Bangalore, sir?
Thank you, Shashank, for having me on your show. I'm indeed grateful to you. Bangalore has very fond memories for me because I've studied here in 64 and 65 in Bishop Cotton's. And those days, I used to stay in 4 Agabasali Road next to the Alsur Lake. And we used to cycle every day and everywhere in Bangalore. Bangalore those days was a very beautiful city, famous for its roads and gardens. And most of the places where we went, we just cycled our way, whether it was Majestic or whether it was Kempagoda Circle or whether it was Vidhan Sauda. But mostly it was cycling, and very rarely we had to use, because in any case we were not old enough to be allowed to drive two-wheelers even. I was just a 14, 15-year-old guy. So that's what it was. But very fond memories of Bangalore of those days. Climate-wise also, you never left home without a raincoat or an umbrella. It was compared to the English weather. That was the memory I have of Bangalore.
So you're an even older Bangalorean than I am.
Yeah.
And as the saying goes, once a Bangalorean, always
Always
a
a
Bangalorean.
Bangalorean, yeah.
So, Colonel, I would want to know what inspired you to get into the Indian Army.
See, actually what happened was my dad was already in the army. He had fought the Second World War briefly in North Africa, in Libya. That was his first posting, Benghazi. And then, his division and troops, they had moved to Singapore. And then he had fought the Japanese in Singapore and Burma and Imphal. So that was the background which was there already in the family. And then after independence, his regiment had become the famous Commando regiment. And he had fought in Jammu and Kashmir in 3-4 major battles. That is, the first battle was the Battle of Shalatang, which actually resulted in the turning of the tide. The raiders were stopped and chased back from Srinagar, just in that battle. 700 of them were killed in 1 hour. That was there because, and my father's battalion, 1 Commando, had carried out a maneuver via this thing north of Gandarbal and come behind. And the Pakistani raiders thought that they were the Pakistan army who had come to assist them. And then it was like a turkey shoot. The next thing was they had, liberated Baramulla. And then from there, they had gone into Punch to defend Punch. And it was there for 1 year that he stayed there with the garrison and they defended Punch. And only when Punch was relieved that he came home and got married to my mother. So that is, so when I saw him in his uniform, I don't remember how old I was then, but that was my inspiration. And then my uncle, his younger brother, also followed in the uniform. So there were now 2 guys to inspire me. Rest of the family was basically doctors, but I was somehow not inclined medically. I was more inclined, if you could say, I romanticized soldiering better than, medicine. So I felt that I looked better in an olive green than a white suit, white jacket or white coat of a doctor. And finally a stage came where my dad told me, okay, fine, you have this condition you have to go through. You have to either get through the PMT, IIT, and only then can you go to India. So luckily, first time I failed in all 3. And next time I got through all 3. And then my father had to keep his word. And that's how I landed up in the NDA, Khadakwasla, with the 35th NDA course, which is, I joined in December 65.
So it would be fair to say that you had soldiering running in your blood.
Yes, I was the second generation and the third officer from the family to join the armed forces. My younger brother followed me. Then, of course, there are other 5 more family members. The total 9 of us in the armed forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, all 3.
Oh, so the Indian military has a good contingent coming from just your family.
Yeah, just my family alone.
So you said you got in 65. Now you had failed all 3 of your father's conditions on the first time.
Fulfilled.
And fulfilled on the second attempt. So was it your father's way of just testing your resolve, or did he want to make sure that you have something else going for you?
No, he was more inclined that I become a doctor, because rest all my family on father's side, there is one doctor in every family. So he wanted a footprint in the field of medicine from his family, from his progenies. But unfortunately, that was not destined to be so. So that's what it is.
Well, thankfully you chose the olive green and not the white coat, Colonel.
Yeah. And I have no regrets for it.
And what was your, when you got into the NDA, what was your first experience? How did that whole process take you?
It was a very nerve-wracking experience, because those days ragging was officially permitted. And I have gone through one hell of a ragging through my first month in the academy. Reasons I would not like to highlight, but share here. But it was, for the first month was hell. But it was something which I had told my dad, because my dad felt that I may not be physically up to the mark when it came to bearing the training. So I told him, don't worry, I'll not come back. If I come back, I'll only come back as a dead body, but I will not leave. I will not quit. So that kept me going. That my promise to my dad that I will not come back without completing the training. And I carried on. And the first month thereafter, things, then of course, we have our own moments of hilarity and mischief. And actually, when you're all boys, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys, nowadays, they even have girls now in India. In our time, they didn't consider us that good. So there were no girl cadets. Now they have girl cadets also joined India. But that's what it was.
And after that, what was your progression in the Indian Army?
From NDA, we passed out in December 68. Then for 1 year, we were there in IMA. We went into the next level of training for the Army. And then we got commissioned as second lieutenants in December 69.
And which division of the Indian Army did you choose, Colonel?
No, I did not choose. I chose the service, arm of service, as we call it. So I chose artillery. So I joined the regiment of artillery, and I went to Devlali, School of Artillery in Devlali, which is there where we carry out our basic training in gunnery. So you are there, you are trained to not only operate a gun, how you engage a target from the command post, what kind of ammunition is being used, and then how you fire the gun, how to operate the gun. And then you are also trained to be at the OP end. This first part is, which I mentioned, is the gun end. The second part is the OP end. That means you are sitting there face to face with the enemy and directing those guns onto the enemy to engage them. So that is there. So you're trained both ways, that you are a fit enough gunner to be able to carry out the assignment.
So you get in through the artillery, and then you come out at 68 as a commissioned officer.
Yeah, in 69 I came as a commissioner. 4 years of training, 3 years in India, 1 year in IMA, and then 6 months as a commissioned officer in the School of Artillery. Then I joined my first unit, which was the 82 Light Regiment.
And there's another twist that comes in here. You also are a trained commando.
That came subsequently. I joined my first unit, 82 Light Regiment, at a place called Harchura. Now, Harchura is about 22 kilometers north of Tezpur, which is on the north bank of Brahmaputra. And it is in the foothills of Nifa. Those days it was called Nifa, now we call Arunachal. So foothills of Arunachal and Assam. So that was there, a place called Harchura. It was actually a tea estate from which the army had taken certain assets on lease. So around which we had created a location where an artillery unit could be accommodated. And we also had some mules with us. So every Sunday, you may find it amusing, we had the thing to carry out the malish of the mules. We had to, it's part of the
that was part of the job.
Yeah, that was part of the job. You have to do everything what a mule driver, the chap who is trained to operate with the mule is called a mule driver. So everything which he was supposed to do, we are also supposed to do the same thing.
Oh, this is regaling to know.
Yeah, and we had 4 horses also. So since I had ridden horses in India, so we used to enjoy going out morning, rides 2 or 3 times a week. We used to go for a joyride on the horse for an hour or so.
Well, a horse ride in a tea estate.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Those are those years when we were just second lieutenants and we were looking for adventure.
So you got your training as a commando.
Yeah, I was sent for the commando course in infantry school Mau. Those days the infantry school was at Mau. Now it is shifted to Belgaum. It was those days in Mau, and it was a 41-day course. And in those 41 days, they made really a man out of you. It was more mental. It was not only physical but actually mental. And we had the speed marches, as we were called. We used to carry backpacks of about 25 kgs on our back, because that is the kind of load you would be carrying when you went for any mission. Now the backpack included not only your kit, it also included the explosives and the ammunition you were going to be using against the enemy. So those 5 to 6 kgs were the ammunition and the explosives which we were carrying on our backpacks. And those 26 kilometers was a speed march, then 32 kilometers, then 40, and the last one was 50. So we had to do it in a given time frame, 7 to 8 minutes per kilometer. So you are virtually jogging. If that time I had participated in a marathon, I could have probably earned some medal at least in the country.
Well, this is something everybody in India wonders, Colonel. We have such fit men in our military services, but not enough of medals coming in Olympics and other things. Now that you mention it, probably if you had taken part in the marathon, you would have won.
No, I would have at least qualified for the finals. No, but it is actually what happens was that it is part of your physical fitness, because not only physical fitness, your mental endurance. Because as a commando, you go through a lot of mental agony. And the bottom line is that you operate in pairs, buddies system as we call it. You don't operate individually. So if you and I were buddies together, no matter what happens, I will not leave you. The same thing, if something happens to me, you won't leave me. So the second thing as a commando is you never remove both your shoes. You always have one shoe on your foot, so that you have time to wear the other shoe or not.
Oh, this is interesting. So could you explain this to us?
So
you never remove
both the shoes. A commando never removes both the shoes. Okay, I mean, of course, now peacetime, of course, after retirement you do. But when you are in operations, you as a commando, you never remove both the shoes.
This is something I did not know. So it is basically to save time. Or
No, because you have no time. You just put on the shoe and just run. So if you're going to take time, if you have both your shoes off, you're going to take more time to put both shoes on. That's all.
so be on the ready for action at every given point
Yes,
of time.
So that is how the first year was passed. 1970 was basically 2 trainings. First as an artillery officer, gunner, and secondly as a commando.
Now, this is all very, very close to the India-Bangladesh war, which is a very famous war that we fought.
Yes.
So, while you got into your command in Nefa, into this famous tea estate with horses,
Harchura, yeah.
Harchura, famous tea estate as we know it now, with horses and mules, and as a young officer, you were having a good time. Was there any inclination in you or in your company or in Harchura that there was going to be a war that's going to break out very soon?
No, there was no inclination, though I will be very honest with you. We were keeping ourselves abreast of the developments which were happening in East Pakistan those days. And you must remember that those days television was not so readily available. The radio was also not so readily available. It didn't have such a broad thing around. So mostly we had was transistors. I remember a National Panasonic transistor, which was there, which used to keep us informed of the news and the developments going around all over the world, which was there, which kept us informed. But since you mentioned on East Pakistan, I'd like to apprise you that the happenings in East Pakistan did not come about all of a sudden. As most of us assume, they did not come about all of a sudden. The genesis of the birth of Bangladesh lies in the birth of Pakistan as a nation. Okay. When Pakistan was born on 14th of August 1947, they came about in 2 parts, the Western wing and the Eastern wing, West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And the only common factor between both wings was the religion. Otherwise, they were as different as chalk and cheese. They were culturally different, they were socially different, they were, culinarily different. They didn't have anything common between the two of them except religion. And that difference between the two sides, two wings, remained all throughout. And the Western wing always had an air of superiority over the Eastern wing. They thought that they were not good fighters, they were not capable fighters, they were physically weak, they may be intellectually much better, but that was a factor which did not count into their scheme of things because everything was brawn and not brain. So they looked down upon the people of East Bengal as second-rate citizens. And just to refresh your memory and for the benefit of your audience, in 48, when Jinnah, he was the first Governor General of Pakistan, when he went to Dhaka, there was a demand which was put across to him, request which was put across to him, in which it was said that the request was that if Bengali could be also made a national language at par with Urdu. And he said it will never be the case. So Urdu remained the national language, solitary national language of Pakistan, Western Eastern wing, and Bangladesh was there because they probably felt that if the same status was given, tomorrow the Eastern wing will seek an equal status culturally. But this difference, cultural and linguistic difference, remained there all throughout. It was there somewhere at the back of the mind of the locals. And that eventually a stage came that when the Awami League, led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, won the National Assembly elections in December 1970, that was National Assembly is equivalent to our Lok Sabha. When they won those elections, the Awami League won the seats. They got the majority, but the West Pakistan, we were not prepared to allow them to have the Prime Minister from East Pakistan.
And who was in charge? I think it was Bhutto in West Pakistan.
No, at that time, Yahya Khan had taken over. Bhutto was not that significant in India, but he was a foreign minister that time.
So Bhutto was the foreign minister.
Yeah.
And Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had won the
election.
Elections
His
for,
party had won the elections, and he had laid claim to form the government.
for the United Pakistan.
Yes, for
East
Pakistan.
and West together.
Yeah, for Pakistan, because he logically, his party was the one which had the maximum seats in the assembly. Now, I want to add another thing for everybody's benefit here, that at the time of partition, just prior to the partition, the population of India, United India, was about 40 crores. Out of them, 10 crores were Muslims. So 4 crore went to West Pakistan, 3 crore went to East Pakistan, and 3 crore remained in India. Whether they did out of free will, whether they by accident, but that was the demographic distribution of the Muslims. So 433 was there. So they always felt, West Pakistan felt that because they were numerically superior, they also had divine right to be the rulers of Pakistan both wings.
Do you feel this misnomer of this British system of a martial race which was given to the Punjabi Musalman, did that have any bearing on them having a superiority complex over the East Pakistanis at that point of time?
There is a reason why this myth came about. If you see the early stages of the East India Company, their focus was basically more towards containing Russian influence getting into India and getting into the Indian Ocean. Today, both sides on our western and eastern fronts, borders, if there is a border crisis, border issue which exists, it is courtesy of the British. They had a phobia for the Russians. So, if you read The Return of the King by William Dalrymple, you will find the complete history of the first Afghan war and how the imaginary Russian threat into Afghanistan and into India via Afghanistan led to the first Afghan war. And similarly, the Russian interest in Tibet was the one which brought the Chinese into the scene as a countervailing force from the British side to contain the Russians. If the British had not brought the Chinese as a countervailing force to protect Tibet against the Russian interest, we would have had no issues on both our fronts.
In fact, we wouldn't have had a border with China as we speak.
No, we didn't have a border. We still don't have a border officially with China. Our border is with Tibet. If you go strictly by the
Nomenclature.
the Simla Agreement of 1913-14, the border is with Tibet, not with China.
That's why it's called the Indo-Tibetan Border Force, which even today patrols.
So to answer your question, because the British were always facing the threat from the northwest, and majority of them were the tribals. So they were using people from that region, and that's how the myth grew around them. After all, there were Brahmins also over there in the army over there. And if you read the book, the first Afghan war, there were Brahmin troops also over there, part of the British contingent. So it's not that the Brahmins are not fighters; they were fighters. We had South Indians also later on. So those things are there, but basically it was that myth which continued.
And I remember reading somewhere, the author had made a funny quip saying that when Jinnah went to Dhaka and made that speech, from now on you shall all speak Urdu. He said Urdu with an English accent and made that statement in English, which just says the irony of the state of Pakistan and how it was created. And it also puts into sharp contrast when you made that statement. The genesis of creation of Bangladesh was laid in 1947 and not in 1970.
Yes. So getting back to the story, so when Mujib had won, he was finally asked to come to West Pakistan to meet the president and discuss the formation of the government. But actually that didn't happen. Those talks broke down and he was arrested. Now when he was arrested, that is the time Bangladesh, the East Pakistan people, declared themselves independence. And it was 25th of March 1971, which even today is celebrated as the Independence Day of Bangladesh.
So let's go a little before the 25th of March. So let's go back to the story where you are still a second lieutenant, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
You're a second lieutenant riding horses and having fun, and you're keeping yourself abreast with what's happening with the world with your National Panasonic transistor. Many of our listeners today will not know what a transistor is. A transistor is something 2 to 3 times the size of your mobile phone, which had an AM and a shortwave.
Medium wave, short wave 1 and short wave 2.
medium wave, shortwave 1 and shortwave 2. These were the three frequencies
Yeah.
at which we received radio communication. There was no FM yet.
There was
So
no-
you were keeping yourself abreast.
Yes.
And as a young officer who came from an educated family and a military family, were you putting two and two together? Did you suspect personally that there's going to be a war?
I wouldn't say that I was doing any crystal gazing or I had any insight. After all, I was only a second lieutenant. There were people who were much senior and elder to me, who were more experienced. But I had some kind of a premonition that something is not going right, and tomorrow there could be a war. Now, let me be very frank that everybody who joins the armed forces, his one dream is to fight a war, to say that yes, I participated in a war. So that's kind of a thing. That romanticism was there somewhere at the back of my mind, and that I felt that this could, the way things were evolving in East Pakistan, we could have a situation that it could lead to a war. And that brings me to the stage where we had actually carried out our annual training in the ranges in Arunachal, where we carry out our firing, field firing, and all, and we're carrying out support to the own troops. We practice all those operations. So we had just come back successfully concluding those exercises when we got a message that in the evening the CO is going to come to the mess. So please be there before so and so.
CO being the commanding
CO,
officer.
commanding officer. So normally the CO used to stay in his own hut, keep himself confined there, so that the rest of the people could at least let their hair down without disturbing him, without him being party to our indiscipline or mischief. But that evening, so that we realized something was amiss. And to take our mind away from the happenings in East Pakistan for a moment, we were actually more focused at that time because our unit had finished its tenure in the field area, as we used to call it. And we were scheduled to move to a peacetime location. And the question was, which location? So there were 2-3 locations which were being thrown about. Ranchi was one of them. Others were also there. Somebody said Allahabad, somebody said Delhi. Everybody wanted. Somebody said Sikandrabad. But we were not sure where exactly we were destined to go. But generally, it was that now the tenure is going to come to an end, and next 2 or 3 months we'll be moving to a better environment. So when the CO came, he asked all of us one by one. I was the third junior most. There were 2 juniors who had joined after me. So he asked everybody, and when my turn came, so he says, "Where do you think we are going?" So I don't know. Nonchalantly, I just told him, I said, "We're going to Dhaka." He said, "What?" There was a pin drop silence. Everybody suddenly looked at Dhaka. Twice he looked at me. "Dhaka? Did I hear you say Dhaka, Pradeep?" I said, "Yes, sir." "What makes you think we are going to Dhaka?" I said, "Things are not going well there." But I said, so to cut the long story short, everybody started laughing, and the CO said, "Okay, for now we are not going to Dhaka. You are not going to Dhaka. You are going on leave tomorrow, and the unit has got an order. We are going to be moving to Ranchi, and you are going to go to Delhi. And after you finish your 2 months of annual leave, you join and report at Ranchi." So that is how. This was first week of February, maybe I think 5th or 7th of February. So that's what. So that is how we were to go to Ranchi via Delhi, and Dhaka was just a loose statement I had made.
So your company was destined to move to Ranchi. And
My regiment.
Your regiment was destined to move to Ranchi. That's your peace posting after your extended time in the
field area.
In the field area. And then you, like you said, you had a premonition, and
It was just a gut feeling, just on the spur of the moment, I felt, that something was the back of my mind. And mind you, let me just, enlighten you a little further. The advanced elements of our regiment did move to Ranchi. They did move to Ranchi because the order had come for us to move to Ranchi. So advanced elements moved from Harchura. After, of course, I had gone on leave by then, and we were asked to join, as I told you, to join Ranchi. So our advanced elements did go from Harchura a few weeks later. I think it was first week of March, to go to Ranchi. So they did move. So it was not that the move had not. It was just something in the air only. It had come in black and white. The move had started actually.
And you were sent on a 2-month leave.
Yeah, I was sent on 2 months leave.
So what would an officer who has gone through the training, who's gone through a forward posting, what would he feel like? What would he want to do in a 2 month holiday? And where did you
I
decide
had
to go?
I had a couple of social engagements to fulfill, and I kept myself occupied without elaborating them. I had certain social obligations which I had. My mother was there, of course. I had to there. My sister and brother were there. My third brother and my sister, so they were studying. So I had to this thing spend time with them. I had other relatives, father side, mother side. Plus, I had some friends and other relatives who were in Mumbai and in Kolhapur. So that's how I had kept myself occupied. And by visiting all of them, at that time, nobody had any inkling of a war or anything other. The unrest in East Pakistan will result into a war at that time.
So this we're talking about February of
February,
71.
March,
February, March
1971.
of 1971. So when did you get to know that the war is breaking out or has broken out? Where
No,
were you?
okay.
And
I'll interject here. What happened was after this independence was declared on 25th of March. At that time, I was actually sitting with my uncle in Dehradun. My father's younger brother, who had joined the army. He was a doctor, so I was sitting with him and enjoying a drink with him in the evening. And then suddenly there was a trunk call from Delhi. My mother had called up, and she said that we have got a telegram, and your leave has been cancelled. You have been asked to rejoin. So forthwith. Now forthwith means by the first available means you have to get back to your base. So that night only we had early dinner, caught the night bus from Dehradun, reached home at 4 o'clock. I had already told my mom, I said, just inform my two childhood friends. They have to be there at home. By 5 o'clock, they should be there. So I just reached home, packed my stuff and all. And my friend, my suitcase, I tied behind the Lambretta. One friend's Lambretta and the other I sat behind the Vespa. So both, they were cousins. So all three of us, that's how we drove to Palam Airport, to the technical area. And there were 5 AN-12 aircrafts. They were all lined up. So I showed my recall telegram. I was allowed to enter the technical area. I walked in with my luggage and I told my friends to wait till I have not checked in. And then, so I was allotted a seat in one of the aircrafts. I told my friends, now you can go. And then they went away. And then after an hour or so, I think 7:15 or 7:30, depending on that, one by one we took off. So all those 3, 4, 5 AN-12s were fully, each AN-12 had a capacity of, I think, 96. Okay. So about, say, 100, so 500 of us were taken off. And as we took off, I had hardly had any sleep. So I put my head on that rail which runs along the length of the aircraft, metallic rails. And so that's the first time I thought to myself, war, here I come,
war, here
Here I come. That was what it was. Because I was now clear that something was amiss.
So in fact, that was going to be my question. I wanted to ask you that when your leave was cancelled, did you feel that you're getting into war or anything?
When I was traveling in the bus at night from Dehradun to Delhi, these thoughts were going through my mind, the possibility. Otherwise, there was no logical reason. I was supposed to go to Ranchi, but I was asked to, if the recall had not taken place, another fortnight I would have been reporting to Ranchi. I had a warrant to travel to Ranchi, but I was asked to come back to Harchura.
So you were called back to Harchura, and this is again in February.
No, this was in March.
March.
After 25th March.
After 25th
Yeah,
March.
this was maybe 26th, 27th, or maybe 27th, 28th, depending on that. But very close to the last week of March.
Immediately after East Pakistan had declared independence,
Yes.
Indian Army started mobilizing.
No, the Indian Army didn't start mobilizing then. The government of India started mobilizing itself, preparing itself for this. I am now saying this with hindsight of what is the data available. But what was happening, the army was not mobilized. They were, of course, in that theater, east of East Pakistan. There were troops which were moved from various locations, their operational locations, their current locations, I would say, not operation, their current location, to somewhere close to the East Pakistan border. And majority of them were along the line, if you go travel from Silchar, along the East Pakistan or the Bangladesh-India border now, going down up to Tripura. So that was the general area where our existing military assets which were already there in the area. They were actually in Nagaland and Mizoram and Manipur. They were then moved from eastward, from Burma and the Nagaland borders to the East Pakistan border. But they were only about a division size. It was not this thing. It was not a force which was planned to go on the offensive or enter the war or something. This was more of a defensive maneuver, so that to prevent any war or any activity spilling over into our country territory. It was purely a defensive maneuver.
So, as a second lieutenant, you put your head back and said, "War, here I come." So, this is the second time in a few months. The message came back to you saying that you are going to Dhaka.
No, we didn't get any message.
The message came back to you as an individual. The first time in the company.
No, it was
the presence of your CEO.
it was my gut feeling that at that time when I was sitting in the aircraft, I never realized that I was going to Dhaka. But I just said to myself that yeah, I come. But the next 2 months, April and May, there were a number of changes which kept coming. Okay, we were asked to be prepared to move to Ranchi, which was the original order, and at the same time we had got orders from the Eastern Command. Okay, no, you go to Agartala. Now, there were two different places. Nobody had got any faintest inkling, why should we go to Agartala, of all places? But then it was there. Finally,
Were anybody aware of Agartala, Colonel, at that point of time? Were you aware where Agartala was?
no, of course, we knew where Agartala was geographically, but we didn't have the foggiest idea why we were asked to go to Agartala, except that it was next to East Pakistan. But we knew that if we were going to Agartala, then obviously there was going to be some activity which we could be getting involved in. That was now very clear to all of us. You didn't require a rocket science to tell you that if we were to move to Agartala, then something was going to be unfolding in due course.
So, finally, where did you move to, Colonel?
We got orders in the last week of May to finally move to Agartala. Okay, and we were to move in 3 trains. The first train, military special as they are called, first special was to start and leave from there and stop at a place called Badarpur near Silchar. And the other regiment less that one train was to continue to the place called Dharmanagar. Now, Dharmanagar is 180 kilometers north of Agartala. So that was the nearest railway station, railhead as we call it in the military parlance. So from Dharmanagar, we had to drive down to Agartala. So that is how the journey started. The first battery, Romeo battery of ours, 152 light battery, that went under Major Kitkule, PD Kitkule. They went to Silchar, and the second train was to be of Papa battery, which was a 150 light battery. But unfortunately, amusing thing happened. We had got the whole train loaded, and we were told that the train will be moving after 4 hours, and officers had gone to change and have dinner and come back. We were staying close to the station, and when suddenly the station master came, and I was the only officer there. I was in white t-shirt and white shorts and white tennis shoes, and he said, the engine is coming, we have to move this train. I've got orders to place another train here. Now, the rule is that a military special has to have an officer as his OC, officer commanding. So the train could not move. So I just wrote a chit to my driver who was waiting to take me back to the thing. I said, for the adjutant, I said, this is what has happened. I'm going with the train. Please bring my stuff. And my stuff was still lying open in my room. I said, please bring my stuff along, and I'll see you guys there in Dharmanagar. And at the station on the platform, I had a case of beer lying there. Of course, the CHD stuff was lying there. So I picked up a case of beer and half a case of rum. And there was no compartment, there was no thing. So I sat in the brakeman, where the guard sits. So sat with him and all. So that is a Bengali chap. So both of us continued enjoying our drinks and all the way till.
So from the time
3 days it took us from there to get to Dharmanagar.
So at Dharmanagar, you were the only officer who was commanding the train.
Yes.
With all its supplies and.
So when we reached Dharmanagar, what I did was, I knew that the next train was coming 24 hours later. So I commandeered the station. I told the station master, now you can relax. So the waiting room was converted into the officer's mess, and the station master's room, which was his restroom, I made it the room for my commanding officer, and other places, the on the platform which was there, I made the place where the langars, cooking house for the Jawans, could be made. So because in the train there was a langar, so we cook during the move. Okay, we serve food there in the halts, but the cooking carries on in one of the covered wagons, which is open. If the military kitchen car is not there, then we have a covered wagon in which you have proper cooking, like a kitchen is probably established, and they keep doing the cooking. So we have telephone line connected along the train. So we keep telling them, and then we tell them, now next station is coming. There's going to be where the dinner lunch is going to be served. So next day when the COs, when the main train came with the CO and all, so we were already organized. We had to unload both the trains because at Dharmanagar we had to have a ramp to unload the vehicles. Ramp is, near the station you have. So the vehicles had to come down, they have to drive down, and you have to keep moving the vehicle
But
like
it's
compartments.
it's shocking to me because my suspicion is there was no broad gauge at that point of
No,
time.
there was no broad gauge. There was no broad gauge east of Siliguri. Siliguri, actually, the broad gauge finished at Barauni. Barauni, which was in Bihar, was the last broad gauge station. And beyond Barauni, the whole of Northeast, that is North Bengal and the whole of Northeast, was all meter gauge.
And you're a gunner. You are going with your guns, your supporting vehicles. Did they fit on the
No,
narrow gauge?
that was there. There was difficulty. So we had the vehicle in which the railway rolling stock, in which we load the trucks, but the width of the truck was more than the width of the carriage rolling stock. So we had to keep the sides open, and we had to lash the second so that when the train is taking a curve, the vehicles don't slide off and fall off the thing and all. And at the same time, we have to keep in mind that when we are going through bridges, the roof of the vehicle does not hit the thing, and also so we had to reduce the height of the vehicles by removing the canopies and reducing the height.
So all this is the prerequisite arrangements you have to make before going to war, because by now everybody
Yeah,
knew.
now of course, now today we don't have to go through all these things because most railway lines are now broad gauge, and most bridges have the thing which are high enough to allow movement. There is a thing called ODC, over dimensional clearance. So the railways, when we book place the order for a train, that is the time we give the thing that this is going to be the height of the highest, tallest equipment which we have. So the railways will then accordingly plan this thing out.
So I was where I thought of this question was, Colonel, the preparation for war and logistics of today and logistics of those times were so very different.
Yes,
Because
to a considerable extent.
so because you as a young officer had to make sure that all this was done, and at the last moment accompany the train which was supposed to leave 4 hours later. So the kind of initiatives, the kind of impromptu decisions you had to take back then, I do not think will be done on a day like today, where
No,
things are.
if say the same thing was repeated today, somebody in my place who would be there, he will do exactly what I did.
But would the system still be in such a way that
See,
the train leaves earlier without-
it depends on how the railways are operated. Because see, the rolling stock is, and the power, the engine they call is the power. That is not within the power of the army. That is with the railways. So at that stage, we are bound by the diktats of the railways. Okay, but let me assure you that the railways and the armed forces, I would say, they have a very close knit understanding of each other's operations. So they are very understanding and accommodating, and so are we. So we are not neither too demanding and while they are reasonably accommodating. So very rarely we get into a conflict with each other.
So you reach Dharmanagar, you set up a temporary.
After 3 days from Dharmanagar, we moved to Agartala.
Okay. So finally you reach Agartala, and as a
and,
young officer, you are ready to go to war.
Yeah. War was still quite some time away. We were setting our, by a military camp in an area which is called the Neer Mahal. Neer, as you know, is water. So there were 4 lakes out there, and there was this Mahal. That was the Mahal of the Maharaja of Tripura. So there was a very big vast open ground. So we were asked that ground was allotted to us to set up camp.
So
And-
as a young army officer, when you are commissioned, when you get your first posting, and when you're just getting into war, you are in very scenic situations.
Yeah, I wouldn't say scenic situation, but yes, we were in royal company, all right, because while we were still setting up the camp, we found two gentlemen walking into the camp area, and we naturally stopped and accosted them. And one of them then told us that he's the Maharaja of Tripura and I'm his ADG. So we got a little taken aback. We had never seen a Maharaja in our life, but he was like an ordinary person like you and me in a shirt and a trouser. So we then immediately sent the message to the CEO. Okay, so the Maharaja is here. And then we set up few chairs and table, offered him a cup of tea. And then after some time, we got back to our, setting up the camp. But after some time, we found that the CEO and the Maharaja, they were enjoying a whiskey and they were playing a game of bridge. Because the Maharaja Tripura was a very good bridge player. And he was very fond of bridge. And so was my CEO. And they got around to playing bridge. Incidentally, just for the interest of your viewers, Maharaja Tripura's daughter-in-law is actress Munmun Sen.
Oh, so
that time, of course, she was not his daughter-in-law.
So the father-in-law of one of the most notable
Actress.
yesteryear heroines.
Yeah, he is Sandhi of Suchitra Sen.
So now you get into Agartala. You're in Neer Mahal. You're setting up your
Another trivia I will just interject here for your information, that the royal family of Tripura are also related to music directors S.D. Burman and Rahul Dev Burman, R.D. Burman. Okay, they are all part of the same Burman family, and the mother side from the Burman family belonged to Noakhali in now Bangladesh. Those days East Pakistan. So those are the relationship, like Komla Chittagong, Komla Menamati, which are just across in Noakhali district from Tripura. They are as much part of the Tripura state
as they are part of the
that's right.
today's
Yes,
Bangladesh.
So that by family ties, they have been related. Both mother side is Noakhali district and father side S.D. Burman, R.D. Burman and all that.
Fascinating. And so you've set up base, you're getting ready for war. What's a young officer going through, knowing that he's at the cusp of war? What was your feelings in a forward base?
We were not mentally geared up. We knew something was there. We obviously the army won't move you just like that for tourism purposes or something to Agartala. So we were quite clear that we are going to soon get involved into the thing. And I think the third or fourth day of our stay in Agartala, my battery, 151 light battery, cubic battery, we were asked to move to a place called Radha Kishorpur. And
Radha Kishorpur.
It is also locally called Udaipur in Agartala, but actually official name is Radha Kishorpur. And we, after reaching at Radha Kishorpur, we were asked to travel west along the track into an area which is called the Salda Nadi Pocket.
Salda Nadi Pocket. This is again in today's Tripura.
Yeah. Now, Salda Nadi is a river which is there in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, which forms a horseshoe into Indian territory. So that horseshoe jutting into India is the Salda Nadi Pocket, that it is called as in the military parlance. And we were about, I think, 15-20 kilometers west of the Radha Kishorpur town. Why I'm mentioning Radha Kishorpur? Because all the salary of the Jawans was to come to the SBI, Radha Kishorpur, that was there. And I must mention here that when we were traveling from Agartala to Radha Kishorpur and to our area, location, we saw a lot of refugee camps en route.
Okay. So the refugees had already started pouring into India.
Yes. We saw a lot of refugees there, and we crossed a lot of them streaming in, walking through towards the refugee camps.
So this is at least 50 kilometers in Indian territory?
20 kilometers.
20 kilometers. So the refugees, and this is which month again, Colonel?
This I'm talking about June and July.
So June and July, we have still not declared war.
The refugees had already started trickling in from April onwards.
Okay, so
refugees had already started trickling in from April onwards, and it was building up. We did not know how many refugees were coming daily, but refugees were trickling in. They were pouring in from all over. Wherever they could find a way, they would just cross over, and we couldn't fire at them. I mean, the BSF. We were not at the time at the border. The BSF was guarding the borders, so we could not fire at them out of humanitarian considerations, and nor could we stop them. And they were streaming in.
So you as a young officer walking in, what was going through your head when you're seeing refugees come along?
It really affected us because we could never visualize that a nation could be so inhuman towards its own people.
And what was
I mean, it was like being there. You could see the cruelty live in front of you firsthand.
were you aware through, was it in the media of what was happening to people
No,
in
some
East
of it was
Pakistan?
already there in the media. You see, the media, one has to remember that. See, our all India radio was the only one which could give you an update. Otherwise, the print media was at least 48 hours late. Because it used to be a dark edition, and dark edition as it is 24 hours late. So by the time it reached, it was 2 days late. So the news, what we were seeing today, we would read about it 2 days later. But here we are seeing firsthand. So you didn't have to be a strategist to know what exactly was happening. You could see it live in front of you. So whatever you read in the papers or heard over the news, you could see in front of you.
Was there any interaction you had with the
Yeah,
refugees?
we had the opportunity to interact with lots of them. We could hear the signal, and subsequently, when
What
we
what did they tell you? What was?
I'll
is there
come to
anything
that.
that
And
struck you?
once we deployed, our interaction with them was multifaceted. That is basically, one was where were they from, what were their names, then what was their religious faith, what was the strength of their family, and then how long have they been walking from there to here. Okay, and why have they left? 90% of them were Muslims, and yet they were leaving. So we had to ask them, why were you leaving? Being Muslims, they was there. Why are you leaving? But they were telling us stories of atrocities, the looting, and the rape, and molestation of women. They will keep the women with them, not allow the family to
So let me get this correct, Colonel. So it was the Muslims of
the Pakistan
East
army
Pakistan
was Muslims.
East Pakistan
The-
Muslims were being tortured and
The
raped.
refugees who came to India, they were not Hindus alone. They were Muslims also. There were
Correct.
1 crore refugees came to India.
And a moment ago, you said most of the refugees you met.
95% of them were Muslims. They were not Hindus.
So let me understand this. So it was not a religious targeting, but it was just a targeting
Ethnic
of
targeting.
ethnicity of being an
Yes.
East Bangladeshi.
It was being
sorry,
of a Bengali.
being a Bengali. But it was East Pakistan.
Yeah.
But since they were Bengalis, and who at that particular point of time was in charge of East Pakistan in
It
a
was
military sense?
General Tikka Khan, who was known as the butcher of East Pakistan.
So the butcher was, you felt, you saw the aftermath of his work.
We saw the effect of his actions live. So at that point, the ethnicity was of significance, not the religion. It didn't matter whether you were a Hindu or a Muslim or you were a Buddhist or anything else. It was that you were an East Pakistani or you were a Bangladesh or you were a Bangla.
Now it makes sense why you say the seed for Bangladesh was sown
Yes.
in
47,
1947
not
and not.
yes.
Because you yourself are looking at 95% Muslims coming out for a country which was made for Muslims.
I'll be very frank, Shashank, we never thought from them as Muslims. We thought of them as refugees. It would be wrong on my part to categorize them or divide them ki Hindus, Muslims. No. At that time, you saw a refugee.
and you
And you didn't attribute a religion to him. And the other thing was, which was a big help to us in talking to them, was the strength of the Pakistan army, the location of the Pakistan army, the location of the Pakistan Rangers, the kind of troops who were there, which were the ethnicity of the troops, the weapons they were having, whatever they could get, and how far they were from the borders, and all those things. So there were two aspects of it. One was social values, intelligence, and one was military intelligence. And third was the terrain intelligence, how the terrain going. Because if tomorrow we have to carry out operations, we should know how the terrain is.
so
Like
as
say,
a-
if I have to come from my house, from Colonel Arun Sharma's house to here, I have to know the route. I have to know the terrain, which are the places, what are the where the road is not good, where the road is not bad, and where there is no road at all, thing like that. So all those things were there.
So it is fascinating to know, even at the site of all this, a military officer is always thinking
You have
always
to.
planning.
Yeah, you have to remain ahead. You have to remain.
Always getting inputs, reconnaissance, intelligence. So you were talking to these refugees, you were collecting this information. Did at that point, Colonel, what was the relative strength of the two armies? The Pakistan army in East
See,
Pakistan.
what happened
and
was that when the independence were declared in March, that time the strength of the Pakistan army was much, much less. But progressively, they built up the strength of the Pakistan army once the Pakistan started getting some sort of an indication of our military intentions. So they started reinforcing their garrison in East Pakistan with more troops. So finally,
did they fly in troops?
yeah,
Or
they had to ship the troops because overflights across India were been banned after the hijack of the IC aircraft, in which Mr. Makbul Bath was the person. So after that, it was had been stopped, but they had to go right around via Sri Lanka, and they came via ships. So their strength, which was initially about 2 divisions, was boosted up by another 3 divisions. So by the time the war actually came about, they had a strength of approximately 6 divisions or so,
to a
which
civilian
included.
population, what would 6 divisions look like?
No, I'm just coming to that. So that would mean that would include not only the regular troops of the Pakistan army, that would include the rangers, that would include the paramilitary forces, like we have the CRPF and things like that. So those probably their strength would be about 600. So approximately a division has 15 to 18,000 troops. So let's say if there were 6 divisions, so you can imagine you remember
About
we
a lakh.
captured 93,000. So obviously if we have captured 93,000 and a number of them have died, so they would definitely, then military strength is more than 1 lakh.
So my rudimentary guess would be 1.5 lakh troops were already present in
Yes,
East
of
Pakistan,
an assorted lot.
Including military and paramilitary.
Yes, paramilitary and police.
So at that point of time, as a young officer, getting into war or positioning yourself on the borders, was this going through your mind? What is our troops on our side of East Pakistan?
No, as a second lieutenant, I would be, being rather, foolish when trying to say that I was thinking of what is the strength of the Pakistan army. No, it would
Do
not
we
be
know
there.
now, Colonel,
Because
what was the strength of Indian army?
yeah, I'm coming to that. At that time, I was more focused on what the job was at hand for me. Okay, so like when I mentioned, when we reached Radha Kishorpur and Saldan Nadi pocket area, we were allotted an area where we were asked to deploy my 6 guns. Okay, and one of my course-mates, Second Lieutenant Pradeep Kapoor, Copsy we call him, he was the one who showed me the gun area. And when we had deployed the guns, I said, Copsy, where is Pakistan? He says, come, I'll show you. So we were behind a hillock. So we climbed the hill, and when we reached the crest line, he said, no, look down below, that is East Pakistan. So that was my first look of East Pakistan. It was, I think, 20th or 21st of June. And that was the day I saw East Pakistan for the first time. Yeah. And here I would like to tell you, Shashank, that the hill feature was in India, but where the hill feature ended and leveled with the ground, that was where the boundary between India and East Pakistan was.
And this was a river line? Or
No, this is land line. Okay, they have these border pillars which are marked. Every 100 meters you have these BPs, border pillars, BP as they call. So they are 100 meters apart. They are already surveyed and fixed on the ground. So this was a proper border. So between here, like you and I are the 2 BPs. This is a straight line joining them. That would be the border.
So we already had a higher ground,
Yeah,
as they say.
and no, not exactly a high ground. We were on the same level, but we had a hill feature behind which I was having an inherent protection from visual as well as from ground action by the Pakistan. Now, I must point out here that when I was on top of the hillock, not very high, maybe just about 300-400 feet high. So across that, there was about a kilometer away was the railway line, the Chittagong-Dhaka railway line, and there was this famous railway station, the Kasbah railway station. Okay, so that was the railway station which was just across.
Now, were your 6 guns strategically placed there because of the Kasbah railway station?
We had an assignment which was given keeping in mind the appreciation and the assessment of the senior officers. Okay. And here I would like to apprise you that we were allowed to fire back at Pakistan in case we were fired at.
And
That
I
means if
assume-
you had opened a fire at me, then I could fire back in self-defense. That's what happened.
And I assume the war is still not broken out.
No, war, June. It was still June. War had not broken out. On 25th of June, what had happened was that my unit had already been part of the 1965 war. So the people were veterans. They knew. And then suddenly we heard. It was very common that there was exchange of fire was going on between the Pakistan army and my friend Copsy. So it was that interaction. And then one day, on 25th June, that was the day the fire landed in my gun area, the artillery shells.
That is the first time
Yeah.
you are seeing live
I
fire.
actually came under live fire for the first time in my life, and 18 rounds fell. And I'll be very honest, I was a little shaken up. I would be lying if I said I was not shaken up. I was, because you see, if I had been hit, then there was nothing to crib about because you would not have been alive. But because one had survived that, and then the realization dawns on you, that makes you concerned. That is where the fear factor comes in. So I suddenly realized, oh my God, this is what has happened. But when the shells were in the air, my men, they were veterans, they immediately said lying position. So we suddenly took the lying position, and the rounds landed. But luckily for us, there were no casualties, either material or men.
So you were left unhurt.
None of us got hurt. And the moment they had stopped firing, I took a few minutes to gather my wits about. And then I told my men, I said, give them the target, which was of the Pakistan gun position from where the artillery, their fire had come. We had the location. So I immediately said 3 rounds gunfire, and we fired back. And after that, for the next about month or so, this was a regular feature. Whole of remaining June and whole of July, this regular exchange of fire was there every day. We would fire in the breakfast in the morning, they'd fire at lunch, we would fire in the tea in the evening, they'd fire at dinner. It was a daily exchange of fire. Now, it didn't matter whether the shells were coming to Copsy or whether they were coming to me. Sometimes I would fire alone, sometimes Copsy and I would fire together, sometimes only Copsy would fire, depending on what it was.
So you and your buddy were how far apart with your guns?
See, the Pakistan gun position was approximately 2 kilometers as the crow flies.
No, Colonel, you and your buddy, Copsy.
Copsy was in the hill behind me. There was one hill ahead. I was in between 2 hills, and he was in the hill behind me.
Okay, so you had 2 layers of gunners firing back at Pakistan.
We had 2 batteries there. Now here I would like to mention that while we were there in the month of July, we also had an assignment which is provided to us to train the Pakistan Mukti Bahini in the handling of artillery guns.
So
So
this was in July?
Yeah, this was in July. So Copsy was provided with 3.7-inch guns to train the Mukti Bahini, and he raised the first Mujib artillery battery, as it is called.
So
And,
let us rewind a bit here.
And just let me finish. And the second Mujib battery was raised by me. We had, because we had mortars, so we trained them at 4.2-inch mortars. Now, these people, Mukti Bahini people, the component were 3 parts. One was trained Pakistan Army people who have now become part
They've
of the
turned,
Mukti Bahini.
they've turned freedom fighters.
They have now become part of this thing. The second one was the paramilitary forces who had a rudimentary knowledge of weaponry, but not of artillery. So they had to be. And the third one was the refugees. They were out of the sheer enthusiasm to get back as the Pakistan Army. They were there. So you had to train them. The biggest problem was that these paramilitary forces and the refugees, they were not accustomed to acclimatized to the shelling, etc., and bullet firing. So it was quite common that if you carried out some operation, they would come back running back
So
midway. Just like
Of course,
the regular troops were there, which were there, but it was something which was human.
So let's rewind. I'm very curious about one thing. You trained the Mukti Bahini, but when, and war still has not broken out. This is
War was still. We didn't know whether war was going to break out or not.
So this is pre-war irritating each other during tea and breakfast and dinner. That was happening.
These are cross-border exchanges.
Huh. So now you're also training the refugees. The Mukti Bahini is being trained. When did this start? Again, June and July of 70?
See, I would not be able to exactly tell you when Mukti Bahini started.
No, your
But,
training.
but in our area, when we had already reached there, we already knew that Mukti Bahini, an organization called Mukti Bahini, had come about.
Okay, so that was in your
Yeah.
knowledge while you.
Yeah, it would not be wrong for me to say that it came out sometime in April. Okay, it could be, but I'll have to dig more out on that. But we were aware there was an organization called Mukti Bahini, and we were and we also knew there was a place called Mujib Nagar, which we knew was in Calcutta, from where the radio broadcast called Mujib Nagar was used to be making.
Okay, so this is exciting. So
Yeah.
you knew that there's a Mukti Bahini, and you are also tasked with training
Yes.
a regiment of Mukti Bahini with artillery.
Yeah.
So you had your challenges. Some of them were regular army, some of them were CRPF, as in the paramilitary
Yeah,
forces.
paramilitary forces.
Not exactly
They,
CRPF.
they had
but
they had a
paramilitary
thing called
forces.
EPCF, East Pakistan Civil Armed Force.
That is equivalent to our
CRPF.
CRPF. Okay. So,
EPCF.
so they are paramilitary, and then you also had civilian population that you were training.
Yes.
How was that experience, Colonel? What was your interaction with the people you were training? Were they really motivated to go back? What was the angst in them?
The angst was there. The desire to get back, to give it back to the Pakistan Army was very strong.
So did you feel that it was kind of a revenge they had, or they just wanted to get their homeland back?
It was natural. But they had suffered a lot. And they wanted to pay back. Let's be very frank. It's like if you see in any movie a person has been wronged, whether it's a male or a female, you would like to get back to your tormentor. It was like that. They
And
wanted to give it
the
back.
torment was so great that they were ready to fight back.
Yes, they were. That's why the Mukti Bahini came about.
So now we hear a lot about surgical strikes and other things, and you were telling me that there is a constant exchange that is happening in between June and July, with you, Copsy, and both of you are having two batteries firing periodically across, and the same thing coming across that side. Now, during your time, were there any surgical strikes across the border?
I'm coming to that. What happened was that sometime in the first week of August, okay, we had an incident where Mukti Bahini attack was launched on the Kasba railway station. Okay, there was an incident in which
That's the railway station overlooking.
Yeah, the one which is opposite us only. And the battery, our battery, 152 battery, which had stopped at Badarpur near Silchar, that had come and joined. So this horseshoe which was there, I was on the southern wing.
You mean the river that made a horseshoe?
Yeah, that horseshoe, southern. So I was at the southern end wing of the pocket, and this 152 battery was on the northern wing. And Copsy was behind me. So there were now 3 batteries, 18 guns which were there, and we were supporting a Mukti Bahini operation on the railway station, Kasba railway station, which had by then a platoon of Pakistan Army. Okay, I think they were from Baluch regiment. Okay, and when the attack went, the attack floundered, and because of the heavy firing, the Mukti Bahini ran back. So Major Kitkule, who had unfortunately fractured his right hand, and his hand was in plaster, he was sitting there, and we were sitting in the thing. He could not control himself, and he came out. He had a walking stick in his left hand, and he shouted. He says, "Koi mai ka lal hai, to mere saath chalega, let's go on this." So that BSF post had about 15-20 Sikh Jawans from the BSF who said, "Sahab, hum aapke saath chalenge." And the rest of the, so these 15-20 chaps with Major Kitkule and his OP party, they started going towards there, and they stopped this Mukti Bahini who were running back, gathered them together, and went and attacked the Kasba railway station. Now the Pakistani troops were so shocked, they never thought that anybody would be so foolish that they are firing and they are still attacking. And then instead of running back, they are now attacking. And the best part was that the Mukti Bahini is shouting Joy Bangla, the Sikhs were shouting Bole So Nihal, and Kitkule Sahab was shouting Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj ki jai, and they went and captured the place.
Oh, so I
So,
assume.
yeah, so
I assume there was Major Kitkule was from the Marathas,
Marathas. Kitkule was a Maratha gentleman.
and he was positioned with the BSF on the
No,
border?
he was one of our officers. He was part of my unit. He got later on a Veer Chakra for this gallantry award. So this was the kind of thing, and we brought some souvenirs from there, including the railway station master's chair, to show that we had captured the place and all like that.
So you literally took the throne away
Yeah.
from the.
After that incident, we moved down to the two BOPs.
So one second. Let's. This is a funny incident, Carl. So there were 3 or 4 different war cries going
Yeah, that was.
while the Kaspa railway station is being attacked.
Yeah.
And there's a platoon stationed there.
A platoon strength of probably, platoon could be, about 20 people, could be 30. Actually, a platoon is 35 people, but at that time, you can't have 35 people there. So, could be 20 people, could be 15 people, they were there.
So was it possible that they actually thought that a bigger force is attacking them with?
No,
three
it was in daylight. It was daylight, so you can't even say it was. They couldn't see. They could see everybody coming. That's why they were dumbfounded. Ki, how can the people be so stupid?
So instead of taking the attack to the attack, or instead of defending, they actually ran away.
No, they surrendered to us. We captured. No, the problem was when we captured, we brought them. We didn't know what to do with them because we had no instructions till then how to deal with PWs.
And without them breaking out, you have brought them across the border.
Yeah, we had brought them, and then we reported to the higher headquarters. So there was a halagula, there was a khalbali over in higher headquarters. So next day everybody landed up because we didn't know what we couldn't send them back without clearance from the higher headquarters. So then slowly we were told politely, "Jao tum log." So. But
So-
it was a good experience.
So your first experience with surgical strikes was with the Mukti Bahini?
No, this was not exactly a surgical strike. This was actual an attack operation, which was there. Okay. After this, we moved down to the place. There are two BOPs in the southernmost.
What's a
portion.
BOP, Colonel?
Yeah, I'm just coming to that. There are two BOPs in the southern portion.
No, what
of
is a
Tripura.
BOP, Colonel?
Yeah,
What does
a
BOP stand
is
for?
a border outpost.
Border outpost.
Border post of the BSF or the forces which are guarding the thing. So border outpost, and this is there in the Subrum district. If you see the map of Tripura, you will see a V-shaped. Exact, but that is the exact V at the base is a BOP called Amli Ghat.
Amli Ghat.
Amli Ghat, AMLIGHAT, Amli Ghat, and the boundary between India and East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, was the Feni River.
Feni River, yes.
Okay, and moving up, before that, about 10-15 kilometers before that is the Srinagar BOP, which is the Srinagar BOP had the advantage that the Dhaka-Chittagong road was just about 50-60 meters away.
50-60 meters away is the Dhaka-Chittagong road.
Yeah, like from your house, the Hanur road,
Yes.
it's just about 50-60 meters away. Like that, we used to just be there, and our positions were there with the BSF, and there, and my guns were in the jungles, just half a kilometer from the border.
So, one second, Colonel, just so that the audience are abreast. This is again in which month?
This is now after that incident in the first week of August at Saldar Nadi Pocket, that Kasba operation. Then we moved down to Srinagar BOP.
Okay,
August, same August, maybe 7th, 8th August or 10th August, around that time.
Okay, so you got moved down
You moved further south.
further south,
Okay.
and now you're right across the Dhaka-Chittagong.
Yes, the Dhaka-Chittagong road was next to us, and the Dhaka-Chittagong rail link was also there. Both are now running parallel. They were across us. There only the Dhaka-Chittagong rail link was there opposite as the Kaspa when we were in Saldar Nadi Pocket. Here the rail and road link both were running parallel to us.
And operations are going on, exchange of fire is going on
We
again.
used to carry out exchange of fire, but now what had happened was that we were asked not to carry out any exchange of artillery fire.
Okay, so
We learnt later on that an agreement had been reached between the DG BSF and the DG of the Rangers of
Which
East
is
Pakistan that they should not carry out any artillery fire. Small arms fire was allowed, but artillery fire was not. So, as part of a mutually agreed operational, imperative, the artillery firing from both sides were stopped. So all that fun we had from June till August of firing on each other and all those things. We felt a little deflated because suddenly we were told that you will not fire.
So a gunner was asked not to fire.
Yeah, but then the excitement came in another form. The excitement came in form of cross-border operations, which today we call surgical strikes.
So now is the actual surgical strike that you saw.
Yeah. So
now,
what we did was that the aim of the surgical strikes was twofold. One was to harass the Pakistan armed forces.
Now all this is coming as a sustained strategy. Are you getting orders from above to do all this, or is this initiative taken?
I was not getting orders directly. The people who were above me were getting orders, and I was part of the execution part.
Okay,
so if
the reason I ask you this, Colonel, is I just want to find out that all this is being planned on a larger scale somewhere else.
Yeah, obviously it is being planned at a higher level, higher headquarter, but how it is going to be executed has been finalized, and we are being executed. So at this stage, I was OP officer with a battalion called 4 Guards. So the CO 4 Guards was the one who had been tasked to carry out certain activities, and to carry out those activities short of start fighting a war.
Just short of fighting a war.
Okay. So the actions were there, military actions were there, the tasks were there, and each task had a specific requirement. Okay. It was not only just you go up and blow up a thing and destroy his logistics. No.
So what was your first operation?
I'm just coming to that. The other was that basically you wanted to acquire the information about the Pakistan, and third one was to demoralize them, harassing, because they wouldn't know what to do. And one of the first tasks we did was that we crossed the border, and the convoy, petrol train as we call it, convoy of petrol tankers, about 20-25 of them were going. So we stopped them and set them ablaze. We just shot them, and the whole thing was there. So for quite some time, the Pakistan army had no fuel to move about.
So you literally took their
each tanker is approximately 20,000 liters. So you can imagine. So if there were 15-20 tankers, we blew them up. So we just went inside and we just shot them. So just fired. The drivers ran away, and the whole place was ablaze for 3 days. You could feel the heat because 50-60 meters is just nothing. You could feel the heat coming to you. So we just ran there and came back. The second one was that we carried out the destruction of a bridge. A small bridge which was on the road, which passed over a rivulet, because Bangladesh is a riverine country. So every here and there are small streams, small rivers, small rivulets, over which you have these culverts, bridges, small bridges. They have to be created. So we carried out the destruction of the bridge and destroyed the concrete bridge was there. So we carried out that. For that we went at night, and we carried out the destruction.
So how many of you were?
It depended. Never more than 10 to 12.
Okay, so even the first time you blew up
the train, of course, we actually carried out the operation simultaneously from 3 different directions. One was in front and 2 from the sides. So we stopped the first one in front and the last one in front, and everybody stopped, and then we let loose.
So what was the kind of excitement in you as a young officer?
See, we crossed Pakistan into Pakistan.
So what was the excitement? Was there personal excitement, or were you just tasked and you just single-mindedly took care of your task?
First time when we did, we were excited that we had crossed. But thereafter it had become routine.
So just crossing the border was an excitement, and
yes, because you see, we are now getting into a foreign country. We are getting into Pakistan, and there was a danger that you could be killed. There was a danger you could be captured.
So as an army officer, does that enthrall?
Why not?
Inspire?
Yeah, why not? It comes natural to you because your whole training has been geared up to carry that out. You look forward to that.
So that actually brings me back to say, when you put your head back and said, "War, here I come." So this is exactly what you wanted.
So this is what I was getting through. May not be war, but I was seeing action.
Yeah,
I was seeing action in some form or the other. Now, whether it was going to result in war or not, that time I did not know.
Okay.
At that time, it was just an action for which was there. And it is now that I can visualize and tell you what was the aim behind those actions. At that time, I was only just carrying out a raid and a surgical strike.
So, and now while all this is happening, Colonel, what is the weather like? What was the weather? Was it raining? Because I suspect this is during the monsoon season.
Every time there was a there was a depression in the Bay of Bengal. It used to rain heavily in Agartala. It's part of the tropical forest system and all. So we had plenty, more than our fair share of rains. And with that, the rains, the local flora and fauna used to get affected. So there were times when you would find that are in the bunker and you get up and you find a snake wriggling over your, mosquito net, and then you say, "Oh my God!" And then you have to throw him out, because what has happened is from somewhere in the bunker, the snake's house has, place or hiding has got loose because of the rain, and the soil has fallen away and he has landed up on your
sleeping
on your
arrangements.
net, mosquito net. So that is the effect of the monsoon. Then the other effect of the monsoon was that most of the roads and tracks, they were kacha. So every time a vehicle moved, it created a furrow, and slowly with regular movement of trucks, the furrows got deeper. So the vehicles would zigzag through, slide through, and this, that, and also it used to become very dry, so dangerous to drive. So that was the other thing. And it used to affect our supplies, our own supplies, because the roads are kacha, and our own food and rations used to take time to reach. So we used to coordinate with the BSF. There, sometimes their vehicle will bring our listing, because the nearest administrative base for common operations was Manu Bazar, which was also the center for the refugees. Okay. So Manu Bazar was a fold location. The supplies for the army, for the BSF, and also for the refugees. So everything used to come there, and then it used to be distributed. So we had to bring everybody from there. And that used to be about 10, 15, 20, depending on the distance where it was. So that was the effect of the monsoon.
And you are going through all this, and you're also creating disturbances and harassing the East Pakistan Rangers and Army.
The third one was in which we attacked the Pakistan post and rescued a girl whom they had held back.
Oh, this is interesting, Colonel.
So this is, I'll elaborate on that. And the fourth one was that we went and there was a logistic base, a small logistic base for the Pakistan post and the army, which is located there. Because by then, what Pakistan had done was they had beefed up their own BOPs with regular troops. So if they're
So this is again late in August?
This is late August, yeah, August, September.
So by then they have an inkling that there is something happening.
There were things there, and it was consequent to our regular raids, because the Rangers were not so organized to defend themselves against raids, commando missions, commando raids. So the Pakistan army had beefed up. Some place it was a platoon, some place it was a company. So it was like that, and there naturally had established a logistic dump somewhere behind, some distance away. So we went across around the BOP.
And this is how far from the BOP?
From the border, we are about 5 to 7 kilometers inside. And
that's quite a depth in that kind of weather.
Yes. Because you see, we couldn't go any deeper, and there was no requirement to go any deeper, because the Pakistan army is already deployed 3 to 5 kilometers. There is no point in going 20 kilometers inside and saying, I went 20 kilometers inside, when there is nobody there to do anything.
So but even 5 kilometers is quite a distance, considering the weather conditions and the topography.
Absolutely. And please understand that 5 kilometers is as the crow flies. When you are going there, when you are going from the operation, you are not going exactly 5 kilometers. You are going zigzag, you are going through, and a commando never comes back by the same route by which he is gone. So there is always a route in, and there is always a route out.
Ingress and egress,
yes.
Both are different.
So there are 2 different routes. You never come back by the same route, because it will be fatal. So you have to have a different route. So actually the operation may be only 5 to 7 kilometers deep, as you see on the map. But actually the whole exercise will come down to about 25 to 30 kilometers. And you are carrying explosives, you are carrying ammunition, because there nobody is going to say, partner, can I borrow a bullet from you, or can I borrow a magazine from you? Everybody is
on edge, everybody is focused.
No, everybody loves his life at that stage. So you have to be very careful. And once in a while, there were troops, we had to go and lungi also. So you had to worry about running back.
So you disguised yourself as the Mufti Bahini as well?
Yes, we had grown beards and all. We had Muslim names also. So that was there. So depending on the names used to change as per the operation. But it was there.
So you were telling you had to rescue a girl from a...
What happened was that it was Raksha Bandhan, and I had come back to my location, to the guns, which was about half a kilometer from the BOP. So there, every day, it was along the road, the track on which the refugees used to be streaming through to Manu Bazar. And there were these three ladies, young girls, who was there. The oldest of them was around 40, 45. And the other two were about 15, 16 and 9, 10 or something like that. So Raksha Bandhan tha, so the Rakhi that come from cousins and all and sisters. So and then suddenly one of them, the youngest.
So you were wearing Rakhis, which were sent to you from your sisters and cousins.
So by then everybody knew that I was somewhere. They didn't know where the hell I was, but they knew that I was operationally committed somewhere. And so the youngest one, she looked at me and she asked, Raksha Bandhan hai aaj? I said, yeah. And then she started crying.
So a young girl of 9 or 10.
Yeah, and I asked her, I said, what happened and all, and then the eldest one told, she was the mother, and the other two were her daughters. And then they told us that, you see, they belong to Chittagong, and they had trekked all the way from Chittagong, and which is quite some distance away.
So these three women, mother and two daughters had trekked all the way from Chittagong.
And they were part of the thing, and the men folk had been killed by the Pakistanis. And they had a small brother, the youngest of them, who was 3 years or 4 older, and he had also been killed by them. So naturally the sister was remembering Raksha Bandhan, and now Raksha Bandhan may be a Hindu festival, but in culturally it is a common festival. I didn't have the time to ask whether they were Hindus or Muslims, but fact was that I just took it there. So then they said ki our eldest daughter, she's about 17 or 18, she has been held back at the post. So I said okay. So I told them, I said, relax here. I got them food and tea, etc. And I went back to the BSF post. The assistant commandant was there, Captain Ghosh. He was ex-artillery officer. So I told him, I said, sir, we have to do something. He says, okay. So we went and we had a flag meeting. And the Pakistan company commander said, no, we don't have anything. Our troops are not like that. They are after all our own people. Why should we?
And he's telling this at the time so many refugees are streaming across.
Yeah, they're coming. It's there, but he's lying. And that operation, I had gone with the BSF commandant.
Let's go chronologically.
No.
So he's standing and he's having.
This is actually a flag meeting.
Flag meeting.
Yeah,
yes.
Flag meeting.
And he's telling you that these are our people while he knows you are seeing all these refugees are going past.
He's saying that we have not held back any lady and this thing. We are allowing them to this thing. So we said, okay, no problems. And that time I had not gone as an officer. I was dressed up in the BSF Jawan's uniform, khaki uniform, and corporal, 2 stripes. And I had gone with a radio set on my back. So I was just listening and all this. So this gave me an idea to have midway between our post and their post, we had gone. And then, I had utilized that opportunity of the exchange to have a rough idea about the post. So we came back at night, then we drew up a plan. I told them.
So this was with the BSF that you drew plans?
Yes, yeah. I told with this thing, I said, sir, I'm going to carry out an operation at night. I'm going to go and rescue that girl. So he says, tu pagal ho kya ladai karwayega? I said, nothing doing. I said, agar the emergency hoti hai, to you get these my guns to open up. Otherwise, he says, ladai karwa dega. I said, wo dekhi jayegi, but I have to rescue that girl. So he says, take it, don't worry. So I gathered 10, 12 people.
So this is a completely non-sanctioned operation?
Non-sanctioned, this is my own.
It's your own war within the
my private operations. War. My private war. So I went and we surprised them, and without much killing around, we managed to rescue the girl and brought her back. And she could not believe that she was being rescued. She thought that she was being taken by, being handed over to another group of Pakistanis for her ordeal. And
she had already gone through an ordeal.
Absolutely undescribable someday. And we brought by the time we got back, it was morning light. And there, in that part of the world, the daylight comes at about 4 o'clock in the morning.
It comes early, it sets early as well. Yes.
So, 4 o'clock in the evening is dark, and 4 o'clock in the morning is around sunlight, first light. So by the time then her mother and sisters and the BSF commandant, luckily we didn't have to open fire, and this thing we brought them back safely. there. And
Did you take the post by surprise? And
yeah, because they never thought that we will be foolish enough to do it. And we came back, and then we got clothes for her from the market, local market, and then get food and all. And then the BSF vehicle was going. So and then they went away. And that was the time we realized we hadn't even asked their names.
So
So
even we feel that a war zone is a heartless place, but probably that's where the most heart and most morals are found. And this one example that you gave us, where you fought a personal war to bring a sister back,
a daughter back.
daughter, sister, because a small girl asked you, "Is it Raksha Bandhan?"
So
these-
I mean, I never, when I look back today, I don't know why I did it, but just something inside, and I went in.
So when people say the Indian army is a moral army, it's probably because of the morals of individuals
No, we
like this.
have. It's not got nothing. It's got nothing. Religion has got nothing to do with it.
No, it's a moral army.
Yes.
It's probably because of the
we
morals that.
our upbringing is totally different. Our upbringing, irrespective of religious faith.
No, Colonel, I was not even talking about religion.
No,
here.
a religious faith, irrespective of regional.
It's basically a human
ethnicity.
instinct.
It is basically being human, basically humanitarian. So, and like I told you, after they went away, we realized हमने उसका नाम भी नहीं पूछा था. We didn't even know.
It was raw emotion of one human being connecting
No,
to another.
I mean, today, I would not know whether they are still in India or whether they've gone back to Bangladesh. I have no idea.
I think you're hiding the fact
And
as being a soldier, but there is a raw connect here where a human being connected with another and realized that on Raksha Bandhan day, she's lost a brother, her sister's being held, and something in you said you had to act.
I had to rescue her. That's what it was. I felt I was morally bound to do that.
And that is why we call it a moral army. We don't call it a religious army, we call it a moral army.
So that's what it was. And that's one of those, indelible moments one remembers.
And how did your team react? How did your company
In fact,
react to
the
it?
next day I got a bollocking from my CEO. How dare you do this? How you could have got killed and you could have been this thing. There could have been a diplomatic crisis. This, that, and all. We said, I don't know. It just came to my mind, and I just couldn't control myself, and I went. And I was recommended for a gallantry award. That's a different matter. I didn't get it.
But you couldn't have got it, Colonel.
No, because it was from actually purely the operational side. It was stupid. See, it was stupidity, but I did it. It's there.
So once you rescued that girl and you sent her off, and then you realized that you hadn't even asked their names.
We didn't even know. We just knew that they were from somewhere from Chittagong. That's all.
And all this is happening. This is late August.
Yeah, this late August, September. This Raksha Bandhan was August.
And where exactly were you when the war was actually declared?
No, I'm coming to that. One thing I would like to tell you that when these ladies, these four of them now, they were going in the truck. The only thing they were doing was just folded their hands. That's all.
And they didn't have words to thank you.
That's all.
And had they resigned to the fact that they had lost a daughter?
Yes, they had resigned to the fact, and they couldn't believe that she was there, and the daughter could not believe that she had reunited with her mother and sister.
So these were the level of atrocities that were going on in East Pakistan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't have to say that I read it somewhere. These are my first-hand live experiences. Then getting back to the story, in October, we moved back from Srinagar and Ambli Ghat areas to Agartala. We concentrated there, and for a brief period, about 15-20 days, people were allowed to proceed on leave. Of course, I was not one of them, but there were people who were allowed to proceed on leave. By
This is in October.
Yeah. By then, it had become very evident that we are heading for war. Because by then, the mobilization had officially been carried out. You remember you asked the question, the mobilization, not in March. If it was there, it was not officially declared. But the official declaration of mobilization started in October. So by then, all the stocking, etc., preparation, now what we hear of, what General Sam Manekshaw told Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, all those are now benefits with hindsight. But at that time, we did not know what was going on in Delhi. But we were busy. All the stocking and everything was going on. So by October we were there and all, and in November I was deployed on the Agartala ATC as an artillery officer. And the advantage of Agartala ATC was that just across the runway, when you looked west from the ATC, just 250 meters beyond the runway was East Pakistan.
So in 71, there was an airport in Agartala?
Yes, there was an airport in Agartala. In fact, there used to be 3 Indian Airlines flights from Calcutta. They used to come from Calcutta to Bagdogra, to Guwahati, to Silchar, that is Kumbhigram, and to Agartala and go back. And there was a Fokker friendship aircraft, F-27. So it was there. And normally, the ATC was on top of the building. There was one building. It is still there, old ATC is there. And below the ATC was the office of the aerodrome officer. And on one side of that was the restaurant. And below that was the arrival and departure. So that was one structure. So I used to be on top of the ATC. And from there, I had my bunkers made through, sandbags. And I used to keep an eye on the Pakistan position across. And that was the Akhoda railway station.
That's the Akhoda railway station. So you are in a very good vantage position.
Yes. So Akhoda railway station was there, and the crews used to come out. They used to have a break and all. So we used to I used to come down, have a cup of tea with them, send letters to my friends and mom and relatives, etc. They would reach in Calcutta and drop it.
So
there.
this is still a civilian airport in November of 71.
Yeah. This is everything was going on. It was there. There was no military activity at Agartala from the aircraft point of view. It was all commercial aircraft. Okay. And the advantage of keeping an eye, the necessity of keeping an eye on Akhoda across was that Akhoda was just 1.5 kilometers across the Agartala airport. So it was also a threat to Agartala airport from that side. That was one aspect. Second was that Akhoda was the tri-junction of 3 rail links. The Dhaka-Chittagong rail link used to be from Chittagong to Akhoda. There was another rail link from Sylhet to Akhoda. And the third was from Akhoda via Brahmanbari and Narsingdi to Dhaka.
Oh, so it's a tri-junction?
So it was the junction of all these 3 rail links through which all these 3 used to pass. Now, like I mentioned earlier, the entire country is riverine. So the subsoil, water is always there, and movement on the roads and tracks is very difficult. So what people have done is they have constructed roads and railways on embankments, on higher ground. And those higher grounds are on which the trains and the road cars and buses move. But they also act as defensive positions for the defender. On those high embankments, you build trenches and you provide them natural protection to the defender.
For people to understand, how high are these embankments?
These embankments could be 3 to 5 feet high, could be 7 feet high.
That could easily hide a man behind.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the trenches were there, the bunkers were built in them, and the Akhoda had become a very strong fortification. It was a very strong, one of the strongest points of Pakistan Army's defenses was Akhoda. And further south of Akhoda, about 8 to 10 kilometers south of it, was the station, similar railway station, Ganga Sagar.
Ganga Sagar.
Ganga Sagar is the station where Lansing Alberta achieved martyrdom and he was awarded the Paramveer Chakra. Okay. And further south of Ganga Sagar was our favorite Kasba railway station.
Okay, the one you just moved out
we started off. The one we had opened our account with. Okay, so Kasba railway station, and then for traveling north was Ganga Sagar, and further north was Akhoda. So that is where my line of sight Delhi used to be there to see the thing. Sometime last 10 days of November, that was, I don't recall the date, but this is after Mrs. Indira Gandhi, our Prime Minister, had come back after a failed visit to the US. That famous, meeting with Nixon and all.
And Nixon was very unfavorable.
In which he called her something unparliamentary. So that was there. So we all had gathered in the ground, in our unit ground only, to be addressed by the GOC. Our GOC was an Anglo-Indian gentleman by the name of Major Benjamin Franklin Gonsalves.
Benjamin Franklin Gonsalves.
My own CO's name was Lieutenant Colonel Prithvinath Ganju, and the CO of 4 Guards' name was Lieutenant Colonel Himmat Singh. So these are the 3 things. And on that day, he told us, these are very not significant talk he gave us. He said, gentlemen, only God can stop this war. if any one of you have any doubts, shed the doubts here only before you leave this ground. War is going to happen and only God can stop this.
This is November.
November. I think 2021. I don't remember the exact date, but around that. He says the second thing is look to your right, look to your left, look to your front and look to your rear. So we all naturally did that. He says chances are that one of you will be dead, one of you would have lost a limb, and one of you would be missing, and the fourth one would come back, but still traumatized from the war, carrying the effects of the war in his mind. So be very clear, look around, and this is what it is. And the third thing he said, which there are other things also there. The third thing he said, listen, the people of East Pakistan have already suffered a hell of a lot. So when you go in, remember you are not going as conquerors. You are going as liberators. You see, there is a different connotation and action by a conqueror. There is a different action and connotation of a liberator. So remember that. So they have already suffered enough. So those are the fundamentals I still remember of that talk. And then we got around to preparing our positions for the war. And in the next 1 week, while our senior officers were carrying out wargaming the operational plans, we were preparing our gun positions and dumping ammunition and preparing rest base, command positions and post and all those things. And there. Now, at this stage, I would like to tell you that, and our gun position, which was now of our whole division, our division was 57 Mountain Division, the whole division, our guns, 84 of them were there. They were about 250 to 300 meters south of the Agartala runway. As the Agartala runway, the alignment is north-south.
So 250 to 300 meters south of it.
Starting from there to carry on a couple of kilometers in parallel. Now there were 84 guns. There were 4 regiments, each having 18 guns. And then there were 2 medium batteries. So it was there, and we had 84 guns of different calibers. Plus we had a battery of air defense artillery to protect the guns and protect the Agartala airport from Pakistan.
Enemy fire.
Pakistan Air Force. Okay. One thing I forgot to mention, in that address when the GOC addressed us, there was an Air Force officer by the name of Group Captain Chandan Singh. And he told us, he said, gentlemen, I would like to promise you that 72 hours after the war starts, there will be no Pakistan Air Force in the air.
He said 72 hours after the war starts, there won't be
Pakistan aircraft in the air. Pakistan Air Force won't be in the air.
So our Air Force was that confident
Yes.
at that point of time that we have that kind of
Yes.
superiority?
Yes. Now, here I would like to tell you that we are now on the cusp of the war.
Yes. So what is the feeling once you got after you heard your GOC?
Yeah. So we now knew there was no any doubt. Now we knew we were going to war. Now here
What was the feeling as a soldier?
Yeah, we were all excited and looking forward to it. I'll be very frank about it. We were all looking forward to it. And here I would like to tell you that by then, just to fill in the gaps for the benefit of the viewers, that at that stage, like I told you earlier, that Pakistan Army's strength was about 5 to 6 division worth. Our own strength had by then also built up around Bangladesh to 7.5 divisions. Okay.
So we were more or less equally matched.
Yes, we were more or less at par. But where we did better than Pakistan was that we had better leadership at the junior level and we had better leadership at the senior level. Our military commanders were far flexible, far innovative, far bolder than the Pakistanis. The Pakistanis actually had already lost the war in their minds. They knew that they could not get any more military assistance than what was already there from West. So they were on their own and they had reconciled to fighting it out there. They had reconciled that many of them had reconciled that they may not see their near and dear ones of, if they are no longer alive. So their morale was, on our side, the morale was high. Now in November, I would also like to tell you, there were a number of actions which are going through prior to the start of the war. There was one action which was Garipur. There was another action which was there at Dalai. Okay. So there are the 2-3 actions and one was, another place was there. So these 2-3 actions were taking place, which was there. in which, in fact, there was one action at Boira where there was an exchange of between the F-86 fighters of the Pakistan Air Force and our Nats from Kalaikunda, and we had shot down the.
Okay, so that gave our group captain and collectively the Indian Air Force the
Yeah. So
relative
they knew-
understanding that we are going to overpower them within 72 hours
See,
of the war. And-
Shashank, the Pakistan Air Force just had about two and a half squadrons there. That means they had about 36 aircraft or so, or less than 36 aircraft. Whereas we had a number of air bases all around, and we were in a far superior position with regard numerically. So we could naturally outnumber them into this thing. The focus was to knock out the airfields. So if the airfields are knocked out,
they will not
be
take off.
able to operate.
All right.
So what they used to do was that every day, every night we used to go and knock out the Air Force used to go and knock out the air runways and the taxiways, so the planes could not take off. And in the day Pakistanis used to repair, and at night again we used to. So the Air Force, actually, Pakistan Air Force never really took off after the first 3-4 days.